She loved him, but her father was a cop. A story of love, betrayal, and what happens when loyalty to blood clashes with the truth. You're watching Black Legends, where powerful stories come to life. I told you, stay away from him. The words exploded through the house like a gunshot. Emily's body stiffened. Her father's voice still had the power to shake her, even now, even at 21. She stood in the doorway to the living room, her fingers clenched around her phone. It was still open to the last message Jalen had sent, "Let me know you're okay." Officer James Whitmore stood in the middle of the room, fresh from patrol. His badge gleamed under the soft light of the ceiling fan. His uniform was neatly pressed, his boots still wet from the rain. But it was his face, clenched, red, and filled with fury, that made Emily's heart thud against her ribs. She swallowed hard. "Dad, Jalen hasn't done anything. You don't even know him." "I don't need to know him." His voice was low, tight with control. "I know enough." Emily felt heat rise in her chest, not fear this time, but anger. "You mean you know he's black?" The silence that followed was the loudest thing in the room. Her father's jaw twitched. He didn't respond. "That's what this is really about, isn't it?" she pressed. "You can't stand the idea that your daughter loves a black man." He took a step forward. "He's not like us." Emily's breath caught. Her stomach twisted. How many times had she heard those words growing up? Not like us. About neighbors, classmates, even fellow officers. But this was different. This was personal. "I'm not a child anymore, Dad," she said, standing her ground. "I don't need your permission to love someone. And I do love him." James looked at her like she'd just committed a crime. "You think love is enough?" he snapped. "You think that boy's going to protect you? Provide for you? Walk into our house and earn my respect just because he says, 'Yes, sir,' and keeps his hands where I can see them?" She blinked. "You don't even know his name." "Don't need to," he said flatly. "I've seen his type. Talk smooth. Smile big. Play innocent. Until you're in too deep." Emily laughed bitterly. "You've arrested so many black men, you think you know them all." "I know trouble when I see it," he growled. "He's in medical school. He's not right for you." "No, you mean he's not white." Silence again. Outside, the wind knocked against the windows, carrying the sound of sirens far in the distance. Emily could hear her heart beating in her ears. "You don't get to choose who I love," she said finally, her voice shaking but firm. "You don't get to control me. You live under my roof. Then maybe I shouldn't anymore." That struck a nerve. His eyes flickered, surprise, maybe, hurt. But it vanished beneath the armor of a man used to power. "Pack your things," he said coldly. Her mouth dropped open. "What?" "You heard me. If you're going to choose him over your own family, then go ahead. Walk out that door." She stared at him, her chest tightening. For years, she'd tried to make peace between her world and his. The white picket fence. The patrol car in the driveway. The man who tucked her in at night and arrested strangers by day. But now those worlds were crashing. And the only way to survive was to stop pretending they could coexist. "Jalen would never ask me to choose," she whispered. Her father crossed his arms. "That's the problem." He should have known better than to think he ever had a chance. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall in front of him. "Is that what Mom would have wanted?" she asked softly. For a moment, the rage in his face cracked. Just slightly. Her mother had died when Emily was 14, and even now, that grief lived in the corners of every room. "Don't bring your mother into this," he said. "She'd have protected you, like I'm trying to do." Emily stepped back. "No," she said. "You're trying to protect your idea of me. Not me. Not who I really am." Then she turned and walked to her room. She didn't pack. Not yet. Not because she was afraid, but because she needed to figure out what to do next. Where to go. How to tell Jalen what had happened. As she sat on the edge of her bed, phone trembling in her hand, one message came in. "Are you safe? I heard about your dad's patrol. Call me. Jalen." And that's when she made a choice. She wouldn't run. She wouldn't hide. And she wouldn't let her father write the story of her life. But what she didn't know yet was that her father wasn't done. He had one more move to make, and it would risk everything. Emily didn't sleep that night. She lay on her side, staring at the wall, listening to the faint sounds of the house she'd grown up in, the creaks in the floorboards, the hum of the fridge, the occasional thud as her father moved through the hallway like a ghost. She clutched her phone to her chest. Jalen. He didn't know what had happened yet. She didn't even know how to explain it. At 6 a.m., she slipped out. Her sneakers barely made a sound on the front steps. Her father's patrol car was gone, out early, like always. Maybe that was his way of avoiding her, or maybe he thought she'd already left. She hadn't packed a bag. Not yet. But she had somewhere to go. They met at the lake. It was their spot, a hidden patch of shoreline behind the old elementary school where the trees hung low and the world felt far away. Jalen was already there, pacing near the water. He looked up when he saw her and ran to meet her. "Emily," he said, wrapping her in his arms. "You okay?" "I've been texting all night." She pressed her face into his shoulder and finally let the tears fall. "I told him," she whispered. Jalen stiffened slightly. "Everything." She nodded. "I said I loved you. I said I wouldn't hide it anymore. And he told me to leave." Jalen pulled back just enough to look at her. His eyes were soft, worried, but there was something else too, relief. "I'm sorry he did that," he said. "But I'm not sorry you said it." Emily let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. They sat by the lake for hours, their hands entwined, as she told him everything. About the shouting. About the ultimatum. About the look in her father's eyes when she stood up to him. And Jalen told her something too, something he'd never admitted before. "I always knew he didn't like me," he said. "From the first time I picked you up. The way he looked at me, like I was a thief trying to rob his house, not a guy taking his daughter to dinner." Emily closed her eyes. "I thought if we just waited, maybe he'd come around." Jalen smiled sadly. People don't come around when they think they're already standing on the right side. They hadn't always been so careful. In the beginning, when they first met during sophomore year, things were simple. They were two students at the same college, assigned to the same volunteer project, joking over flyers and fundraising ideas. Emily liked how Jalen listened, really listened. And he liked how Emily challenged him, called out his sarcasm, made him feel seen. Their first kiss happened during a campus blackout. The lights went out, and for a moment, it was just them and the stars. No parents. No cops. No history. But after a photo of them holding hands ended up on someone's Instagram, things got complicated. Her father saw it. He didn't say anything. Not at first. But the silence was loud. He started asking questions. "Who's this guy? You seeing him again? You think someone like that is going to be around in 5 years?" Then came the stricter curfews. The random patrol drop-ins near campus. The background check he pulled without telling her. Emily never admitted it to Jalen, but she knew. Her father had used his badge to run his name. So, they got careful. No more public campus events. No more social media tags. They met in quiet places, behind bookstores, in cafes in different towns, and sometimes, in the back of Jalen's car, parked just far enough out that they could breathe. Jalen didn't complain. But she knew it weighed on him. "I don't want to be your secret," he told her once. "You're not," she said. "You're the only real thing in my life." Still, the world made them hide. And hiding love changes it. Back at the lake, Emily pulled her knees to her chest. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. Jalen was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You don't have to choose, Em. I'll be here, whatever you decide." "I already chose you," she said. "But I'm scared." "Of him." She nodded. "Not just him. What he's capable of." Jalen looked out over the water, his jaw tight. "Then we need to be smart. Careful." Emily turned to him. "Do you regret being with me?" He blinked, surprised. "Never. Even with everything that's happened." He shook his head. "Especially because of it." Love doesn't mean anything if it can't survive pressure. And this is pressure. She took his hand. Then we'll survive it. He kissed her forehead. One step at a time. But neither of them knew that someone had already taken a step behind the scenes. Emily's father hadn't just let her go. He had followed her. And what he was planning wasn't forgiveness. It was control. And he was about to use the power of the badge to take Jalen down. The knock came just after sunset. Jalen had just finished prepping for a late study session at the hospital. His books were stacked neatly on the edge of the couch. His phone buzzed with a message from Emily. "Call me after you eat. I miss you." But the knock at the door wasn't her. It was two police officers. "Jalen Carter?" the taller one asked. Jalen froze. His pulse quickened. "Yes." "You're under arrest. Step outside. Hands where we can see them." "What? What are you talking about?" "Stolen property. We have a warrant to search the premises." It didn't feel real, the cold snap of metal around his wrists, the confused stares from his neighbors as he was led down the hallway. He asked questions, but they ignored him. No explanations. No evidence. Just cuffs. By the time he sat in the back of the cruiser, heart pounding against the cage of his ribs, he already knew. This wasn't random. This was personal. And he could only think of one person who might do this. Meanwhile, Emily was pacing her room, phone still in her hand, waiting for his call. A strange feeling had been building in her chest all day, unease, dread. Something wasn't right. Then her phone rang. But it wasn't Jalen. It was a number she didn't recognize. She picked up. "Hello. Is this Emily Whitmore?" "Yes." "This is Officer Dillard with the City Police Department. We have a Jalen Carter in custody. We believe you're listed as his emergency contact." Emily's stomach dropped. "What? Custody? For what?" "Possession of stolen items," the voice replied. "Wallets, IDs. Found in his backpack. He's at the station now." Her knees buckled. She sat down slowly, her mouth dry. "That's not possible," she said. "That's not who he is. I'm just passing along the facts, ma'am." But Emily wasn't buying it. This wasn't coincidence. Her father had warned her. Threatened Jalen. Told her he'd never allow it. She grabbed her keys and ran out the door. At the station, Jalen sat alone, hands still cuffed, a cut on his wrist where the metal had rubbed too tight. He'd answered their questions, but the officers weren't listening. They already had their version of the story, the evidence found in his bag, the anonymous tip that led them to search. None of it made sense. Until Emily burst into the holding area. Her face was pale, eyes wide with fury. "Don't say a word," she told him. "I'm getting a lawyer." Jalen opened his mouth to speak, but she beat him to it. "My dad did this," she whispered. "Did he come by your apartment recently?" Jalen's brows furrowed. "No. But he knows where I live." Emily's stomach turned. "He planted it. I know it. I just don't know how to prove it yet." That was the moment everything shifted. Jalen wasn't just her boyfriend anymore. He was a victim. Of her father. Of the system. And she was now part of the fight to clear his name. The next few days were a blur of legal calls, tears, and sleepless nights. Jalen's public defender wasn't convinced the arrest was clean, but proving that meant more than just theory. They needed evidence. Meanwhile, social media exploded. A few neighbors who had seen Jalen being led away in cuffs posted vague, "Something shady happened tonight" messages. No names, but enough to cause gossip. He got suspended from his medical program, pending review. Emily couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Then, she remembered something. The diner. The security cameras. She had met Jalen there just days before. Her father had shown up outside that day, claiming it was coincidence. But she remembered the timing. How early he'd arrived. The way he parked behind Jalen's car. Her heart pounded as she made the call. "Marcus," she asked, voice trembling, "do your outdoor cameras still work?" There was a pause on the line. "You know something happened, don't you?" he said. Emily took a deep breath. I think my dad planted evidence in Jalen's car. I need to prove it. Come in, Marcus said. We'll check the footage. The video didn't lie. There, clear as day, was her father, Officer James Whitmore, approaching Jalen's car 2 days before the arrest. Looking over his shoulder. Reaching inside the partially open window. Slipping something into the driver's side door pocket. Emily stared at the screen, hands over her mouth. God, she whispered. He really did it. Marcus handed her a flash drive. You didn't get this from me. She nodded. But inside, something cracked open. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was a declaration of war. Emily didn't send the footage to the police. She sent it to the local news. Within hours, it was online. The headline read, "Officer caught planting evidence. Investigation underway." The video went viral within 24 hours. Comments poured in. Jalen's name was cleared, fast and loudly. His medical program reinstated him the next day. As for her father, he was suspended, stripped of his badge. Internal Affairs launched a formal investigation. Emily didn't speak to him. She couldn't. He had tried to destroy the one person who'd ever made her feel safe. And he did it behind a uniform that was supposed to mean protection, not control. But the damage was done. Jalen was free. But he wasn't the same. And neither was Emily. What they had survived had left something behind, not a wound exactly, but a scar. A reminder that love wasn't always stronger than hate. But truth. Truth could burn through even the darkest lies. And what came next would test that truth all over again. 4 days, the world moved too fast. Emily scrolled through news articles, watched videos, read threads filled with strangers debating the man who'd raised her. Her father's face was everywhere, once respected as a decorated officer, now suspended and disgraced. His actions, caught on that diner's security camera, had ignited a firestorm. Pundits argued over abuse of power, racial bias, family betrayal. But for Emily, this wasn't a political scandal. It was personal. Her father hadn't just planted evidence. He'd nearly destroyed the life of the man she loved, and shattered whatever relationship they still had as father and daughter. The night the video aired, Emily sat in her childhood room with the lights off, her knees pulled to her chest. She'd never felt so many emotions at once: rage, grief, guilt, even shame. She hadn't done anything wrong, but her heart couldn't escape the weight of it all. A soft knock came on her door. Jalen. She opened it slowly and let him in without a word. They sat in silence for a while, the kind where everything was already understood. "I'm glad you exposed him," Jalen said softly. Emily looked down. "I didn't want to hurt him. He's my dad." "You didn't hurt him," Jalen replied. "He did that to himself." She nodded, but her throat tightened. "He's not just a bad father," she said finally. "He's dangerous." Jalen reached over and took her hand. "You did the right thing. And now everyone else knows who he really is." But not everyone saw her that way. The next morning, Emily walked into the campus cafe and felt the stares. Not from strangers, but from people who used to sit next to her in lectures, share lab notes, wave from across the library. She overheard one student whisper, "That's her, the cop's daughter who turned on him." Another said, "Can you imagine exposing your own dad like that?" Some were supportive. Many weren't. In their eyes, Emily had committed the ultimate betrayal, breaking the blue wall. And worse, doing it publicly. She kept her head down and left without ordering anything. Later, a message popped up on her phone from an unknown number. "Your mother would be ashamed." Her chest tightened. The number was blocked before she could even respond. That night, her phone rang. It was her father. She let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. Finally, she picked up. There was silence for a moment, and then his voice. "I didn't raise you to be weak." Emily didn't say anything. "I made a mistake," he continued. "But you destroyed our family." Her voice trembled, but she kept it steady. "You almost ruined an innocent man's life." "What was I supposed to do, Dad? Pretend it didn't happen?" "I was protecting you." By planting evidence. Framing someone. I did what I had to. No. You did what you wanted. And you did it because he's black. There was a pause. Then he spoke, coldly. You're not my daughter anymore. Click. The line went dead. Emily sat for a long time after that. Then she deleted his number. She didn't cry. Not this time. Meanwhile, Jalen tried to move forward, but the damage lingered. His professors treated him with careful politeness, the kind that came after a scandal. His classmates weren't unkind, but they were cautious. Whispers followed him like shadows. He couldn't shake the feeling that every opportunity was now tinted by what had happened. He hadn't done anything wrong. But in the eyes of the world, he was no longer just a promising medical student. He was the black man who got framed by a white cop. It had become his identity. He hated that. One evening, Jalen met Emily at their lake spot. The air was quiet, the water still. They sat side by side, wrapped in jackets and silence. "Do you think it'll ever stop following us?" he asked. Emily looked at the stars. "Maybe not. But we don't have to let it define us." He turned to her. "Do you regret it?" She didn't answer right away. "I regret trusting him," she said. "But not loving you. Never that." He nodded. "I think I need to get away for a while," he admitted. She stiffened. "What do you mean?" "Not from you," he said quickly. "Just from this city. The noise. The eyes. I've been offered a rotation in D.C. It's a good opportunity." She nodded slowly. "You should go. Come with me." Emily's heart ached. "I need to finish my program here," she said. "And there's still a lot I have to work through." He squeezed her hand. "Then we'll figure it out." The fallout wasn't just headlines and whispers. It was learning how to rebuild a future after trust had been shattered. It was learning to walk through campus with her head held high, even when people looked away. It was learning to love each other in a world that tried to tear them apart, not just because of who they were, but because of what they represented together. 6 months later. The city had quieted down. The viral video had stopped circulating. The headlines had moved on to newer scandals. People still whispered sometimes when they saw her, but the volume had lowered. Her father's name came up only in hushed tones in police circles now, not because they forgot, but because no one wanted to talk about what it meant. A trusted officer. A father. A symbol of authority. Caught weaponizing the law against his daughter's boyfriend. Emily sat on a park bench near campus, flipping through the latest news on her phone. The department had issued its final report the day before. Her father had officially resigned. No trial. No formal charges. Just a quiet exit, early retirement. Protected, as always, by the badge. She wanted to feel something. Relief, maybe. Or victory. But all she felt was hollow. Jalen was in D.C. now. They still talked every day, FaceTime every night. The distance hadn't broken them, but it had changed them. He laughed less. She trusted slower. Some days she wondered what they'd be like if none of it had happened, if they had met in a world where love wasn't judged by the color of skin or the cut of a uniform. But that wasn't their world. And pretending never helped anyone heal. She got up and walked past the diner, the one where her father had slipped evidence into Jalen's car. It had been remodeled now. New paint. New tables. Like the truth that had come out there had stained it permanently. Inside, Marcus waved at her. She smiled faintly and waved back. That one act of courage, asking for the footage, had changed everything. She owed him more than she could say. Later that evening, Emily sat at her desk, surrounded by books and notes. She was preparing for her final thesis, a research paper on institutional racism and police ethics. Her professor had encouraged her to turn her lived experience into academic work. "Use your pain," he'd said. "Channel it into truth." So she did. Each paragraph she wrote helped her stitch something back together. A new version of herself, not the daughter who obeyed, or the student who avoided conflict, but a woman who knew the cost of silence. And the even higher cost of speaking up. That weekend, Jalen came to visit. They met at the lake. It was colder now, the leaves turning gold and red. He wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and held her close. Neither of them said anything for a while. Then he pulled out a small notebook. "I've been writing," he said. "Stuff I couldn't say out loud." She took it and flipped through the pages. It was full of raw thoughts, half-finished poems, stories about people like him, about being seen, judged, misunderstood. About falling in love with a white girl and almost losing everything for it. Emily looked at him. "You should publish this." He shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe it's just for us." She closed the notebook and rested her head on his shoulder. "I think we're going to be okay," she whispered. He nodded. "We already are." Before he left, he handed her a small box. "Don't freak out," he said quickly. "It's not what you think." She laughed nervously and opened it. Inside was a silver ring, simple, smooth, engraved inside with 2 words. "We stayed." Her eyes welled up. "You don't have to wear it," he said, suddenly shy. "I just wanted you to have it." She slid it onto her finger. "I'll never take it off." They weren't perfect. They still had a long road ahead, careers to build, people to convince, family wounds that hadn't fully closed. But they had something unbreakable. Not just love. Truth. And truth, no matter how dark, no matter how painful, had set them free.